All right, Michael LaFido, Luxury Fridays. We are at a lunch and learn right now in Schaumburg, Illinois. Everybody say hello. You can't see them, but we have a room packed thanks to Land Trust Title, and we have a lot of different sponsors here, but we are covering best conversion strategies today. So we're going to do some question and answers. We're going to do some Q&A here, and if you guys from the audience have a question, you certainly can ask it as well. So we're going to be talking about conversion systems and questions. Does anybody have a question from the first half of our training? This young lady there, say your name nice and loud, please.
So my question is, how do I get more listing appointments?
Okay, so she's got a great question. She asked, how do I get more listing appointments? So Florida International did a study probably 20 years ago, and it's still the same today, but Florida International did a study and they compared agents that work with sellers only compared to agents that work with buyers and sellers and agents that work with buyers only. And the agents that worked with sellers primarily made a whopping 81% more than the next category. So that's a great question. It's a very timely question. When you're in a market like we are today where there's a shortage of inventory, you want listings because they're going to sell. And if you're working with buyers, what does that mean? That means you're driving around a lot, you're writing a lot of contracts, and you don't get the offer accepted. That can be frustrated. You know, Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, 1989, great movie. He says, if you build it, they will come. And so if you build the listing inventory, the buyers will naturally come. So getting back to your original question, how do you get listings in today's market? There's no easy button, right? Remember the Staples, they sell these big red buttons. Just hit that is easy. There's no easy button to get listings because everybody wants listings. There's 1.6 million realtors out there. Everybody wants a listing. But I can tell you there are some ways that you can, and by the way, those of you can see my screen, if you guys have questions at home, type them in here. We'll field questions, whether you're watching this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or Instagram. We're not on live today. But listings, some things you can do to get listings is, number one, you got to let your database know that you're a licensed real estate agent consistently, right? So you got to be top of mind awareness to your database. Your database is people that know you, like you, and trust you, your past clients, your current clients, people that are in your kids' sports teams. You know, you go to your kids' baseball game this weekend. Do they know you're in real estate? About a week and a half ago, my son did a project where he was dressed as Ronald Reagan. They call it the Wax Museum Project, where he picked a celebrity and he talked about them. When you hit a little button, he talked about 1 or 2 minutes, in this case, about Ronald Reagan. When you go to your kids' schools, do they know what you do for a living? You see, you got to look in the mirror. At the end of the day, if you go on Facebook and somebody listed their home or they sold a home with somebody else and they didn't hire you, if you've done everything possible to be top of mind and awareness, that sometimes will still happen. But if you didn't do everything possible to be top of mind awareness, then you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, I need to improve that. So listings in a market that we're in today, listings are key. In a market that we're in today, a lot of sellers try selling by owner first. So that might be a low-hanging fruit for people in the room. Try selling by owner. What if somebody's selling by owner, what keeps them awake at night? Strangers in the night, strangers in the house. Okay. Strangers in the house. What keeps a for sale by owner awake at night? Something else.
Is it going to sell?
Is it going to sell? Do I have to hire a real estate agent? Is this buyer pre-approved? I'm overwhelmed. Do I have the right paperwork from a liability standpoint? Right? These are all questions. So that would be one low-hanging fruit in a hot seller's market, is you're going to see more for sale by owners. So you might consider working the for sale by owner market. So if I'm competing against other agents in a for sale by owner market, how do you think you can differentiate yourself? What's the most listened to radio station a for sale by owner listens to? If you've been to my training before, what's the most listened to radio station? Rita? WIIFM. What's in it for me? That's what a for sale by owner is thinking to themselves. So if you are contacting a for sale by owner, most real estate agents, what do?
Have a checklist for them, things they need to do, from curb appeal,
Well, most don't do that, but that's a great idea. And for those of you that are listening, she said a checklist, a to-do list. Most real estate agents say, here's my card. Here's my card. Call me when you're ready to list. First off, list is not a term that the consumers know, right? That's a realtor term. So you got to say, give me a call when you're ready to put your home fully on the market on all the websites. And they don't even know what syndication means. On realtor.com, international websites, local websites, the multiple listing service, which is our real estate agents database. When you're ready to turn up the volume knob, give me a call. But I like asking these questions of for sale by owners. Question number one, Mr. Seller, how long are you going to give it selling by owner before you explore other options of maybe hiring a real estate agent? That's question number one. If they tell you 60 days, divide it probably in a third in today's market. It's probably 20 days. If they tell you 6 months, probably 2 months. Question number two, Mr. Seller, do you have a close friend or relative that you feel obligated, is the key word, that you feel obligated to market your home with after those 2 months are up? If they say, yeah, my mom, in the past, I would tell you next. In other words, you're probably not going to get that listing.
Right.
But that's not the case anymore. 2 years ago, I spoke at the Keller Williams Luxury Conference in Boca Raton, Florida. If my Keller Williams agents are watching, please chime in. And Leslie Akers had me speak at their conference. I had an agent come up to me at that conference, say, hey, I'm a licensed agent here in Austin. I have a buyer moving from the Chicagoland market, but they have to sell their home first. I don't know the address. I don't know the town, but I'll find out. So she gets back to me like later that week. It's in a town called Barrington Hills, Illinois. You've heard of it here. The problem was the house was listed. So this agent, she gave the seller my information. The seller contacted me. The house was listed with his mom at Sotheby's. He interviewed me. He ended up hiring me and firing mom. So I tell you that story because if they say, yeah, I feel obligated to list with my mom. In the past, I'd say, you're not going to get the listing. Now I'll tell you, you still can get the listing. Okay. So for sale by owners is the first thing. Okay. So working the buy owner market. Is that good? Buy owners, young lady. Hey, what first name? Sorry. Cherie. So that's number one. The other thing I would do, Cherie, if I were you, is I would work around other people's properties that have sold. So you can OPP, remember Naughty by Nature? Okay, you can leverage other people's properties. So if 123 Pennsylvania Avenue sold recently, you might do some door knocking or work with Rita from Capture Media and do a mailer to that neighborhood. Okay. In other words, if you are thinking about selling in 2022, your house might be worth more than you think. Your neighbor down the street recently sold, and maybe try to talk to that listing agent. Be like, hey, out of curiosity, did you guys get a lot of activity? She probably will just offer up, or he, oh yeah, we had eight offers and 38 showings. So now you use those bullet points when you send out a mailer or you door knock around that listing. Disclose. We did not represent the seller, but we might have a buyer for your home. My understanding is there were 8 offers on the one that recently sold, and they had over 30 showings. So you're leveraging other people's properties. Okay.
So you saying that I could just call the other agent, just chat them up?
I get calls all the time. Tell me about that house. I get calls from other agents say, hey, I heard it's under contract. Is the buyer local? Are they not local? They don't have to disclose it to you, but they might. Yeah. So that's an idea for you. So other people's properties for sale by owners. In this market, you won't see as many canceled and expired listings. Okay. Now you might think about low-hanging fruit, maybe canceled and expired from a year ago, 2 years ago, if they haven't been sold again. Okay. Reach out to my good friends at the Red X Real Estate Data Exchange, theredx.com for their data. They provide great data. Great question. Anybody else have a question? Yes, Steve.
Mike, are there any questions? So when we're talking about conversion, are there any go-to questions that you have on a listing presentation that either it differentiates yourself? Are they impact questions, or are they kind of move them along questions, or even closing questions? Are there some that you have?
Yeah, I like to always know what a seller's motivation is. I'm a 1 to 10 guy. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning I need it sold yesterday, 1 being I don't care if it sells in 3 years, I need my price. I'm a 1 to 10 guy, so I like to see what their motivation is. Most sellers are motivated by what? Top dollar. But a small percent of sellers are motivated by time. That's why you see those We Buy Ugly House signs or those iBuyer programs. Those people are motivated by time. They know they're leaving money on the table, but they want it sold and they want certainty. Okay, so I like to ask them, are they more motivated by top dollar or time? They might say both, but try to press them on that. That's a great question. I also like to ask them if their home has been listed before, what they liked or didn't like about their previous experience. They might say, I love the fact that my agent only contacted me if there was interested buyers. I don't want to be bothered unless somebody's really interested. They might say they didn't like the fact that the only time they heard from their agent was to lower the price. It really kind of depends. So you want to be pretty consistent with your presentation when you work with buyers and sellers. You want to adapt your presentation based on personality types. To keep it really simple, you got left brain and right brain. Left brain are more linear thinkers. You got to be a little bit slower. You got to have more visuals. You can't just talk about how your company's number one in your town. You got to back it up with facts because they're skeptical by nature. Right brain are more emotional people. Okay. They want to make sure they like and trust somebody they work with. Everybody wants to make sure they trust somebody. But if you're likable and you build rapport, that's half the battle with right brain people. They're more emotional, not logical. Okay. Great question. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure I got back to your question. So how do you get more listings? The other way you can get more listings is to work other people's open houses. So we just sold a home for $850,000 in Wheaton on Wednesday. It was a referral from their daughter. We probably did 20 open houses at that house. Why were agents on my team willing to do open houses? They wanted to work buyers, but guess what? A lot of those buyers have to sell. Some have to sell before they buy. If you build rapport and follow up, they're going to maybe hire you, or at least you're in the conversation. Okay? Broker open houses. You can go to other people's broker open houses and get their permission. We don't do a lot of broker opens for our properties, but we did them on that 850. But if you would have called me on that 850, say, hey, Mike, I came to your lunch and learn. Would you mind if I did a Facebook Live video at this beautiful home in Wheaton? I would say, sure, just tag, make sure you disclose where the brokerage of record and put the property website in anything. So this way you're not misleading the public. I'd let you do that. That's OPP, other people's properties. Okay. Any other questions on conversion? Yes, Wayne.
Can I ask something to her question?
Yes.
Here's a strategy that could work if you understand the power of numbers. The National Association of Realtors says that on the average, 70% of the FSBOs end up listing. Try this. This should give you 17 to 20 listings a year. FSBOs. Every week, call one FSBO. Talk conversation. Keep adding one FSBO. First week, 1, second week, 2, 15th week, 15, 20, 30. By the end of the year, you got 50 FSBOs. You're keeping in touch with them in some way. If the statistics are right, and they are, if 70% of those 50 list with somebody, that means 35 of them listing. If you keep in touch with them, you're just half good. You got 17. I used to carry 75 to 80 listings all the time. I knew I had 17 to 22 listings from FSBOs consistently because I followed that specific plan, and now it has tremendous materials. We have tremendous materials. The bottom line is you need a system. Identity, repetition, consistency, which Michael said. But 17 FSBOs to 20 FSBOs a year if you're marketing a lot of FSBOs. Make sense?
That's a great point. So Wayne is Rockstar. For those who don't know Wayne Probrocki watching at home, he's got a training on Fridays, and he postponed it this week because he's here. The name of your Friday free training?
World of Wealth.
World of Wealth.
Wow. To build an exit strategy by buying at least 2 income properties a year. Plus other things we do to have fun on negotiations and listings, et cetera, because this is so important today.
So we'll do a follow-up. We'll make sure we email everybody from this class. The other thing, I had this young lady, Gloria, ask me a question. By the way, you'll see on your screen, luxury designation. We have an upcoming training. It's going to be our premier event for 2022. Those of you who are watching live, it's going to be at Medina Country Club. But Gloria asked me a great question during the break. I won't mention your last name. You're okay. But during the break, she mentioned something. You know, I had a luxury training down in Texas, in Fredericksburg, in February. During our training, it was a 2-day training. One full day of content like we're going to do up here in Chicago, and the second day we did a mansion tour. We toured a $17 million home and a I think either $7 or $5 million new construction. I had a older Remax couple, husband, wife. They came up to me. They said, "Oh, your class was great. Your class, brought a lot of value versus another designation class they took. The only other thing is that class talked more about the language of luxury. Say this instead of this." Have any of you thought about that's one thing you're worried about if you're going to go on a luxury listing appointment? What do I say? What don't I say? Raise your hand. Okay, those of you at home, about 3/4 of the room raise their hand. During our course, we do talk about tips and suggestions and what to say, what not to say, but we don't focus much on that. So what I'll do for all of you that are here today, and if you are watching home and you're interested, I'll share with you, we've videotaped when we went into the $17 million mansion. The listing agent pointed out a few things before we toured the property. And I said, "Hey, I have a couple questions for you if you don't mind." So what did I say to her? I said to her, "Is that 17 million your price or the seller's price?" That was my first question. Because price, I don't care if it's artwork, I don't care if it's an exotic car or an entry-level home. Are you pricing it as a professional based on comparables and your research, or are you pricing it based on what the seller wants to get out of it? Okay. I asked a bunch of other questions. Ultimately, she said, "Oh, that question's good. Why don't you ask the owner? She's right over there." So the owner was at this mansion tour, which was pretty cool. And so I said to her, "Hey, what went into your thought process before you hired this agent to market this amazing home?" And she shared a couple things on, I did my due diligence. She had a track record of selling other homes, but she picked up the phone. Like when I called, she picked up the phone. I called somebody else, they didn't. And when I talked to her, she was approachable. I said, "Did her language ever come into the equation?" In other words, she said this instead of that. She goes, "No, not at all." So I looked over at that husband and wife couple that said that was the only thing I didn't spend enough time talking about. I said, "That's why we don't spend much time, because I don't want you guys to overthink things and go on an appointment and not be yourself and overthink, oh, I better not say this or I better not say this." No, be yourself. So that's the real key. People want to do business with someone they like and they trust. You've heard me say this before, but Daniel Kahneman, who's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, once said, "People would rather do business with someone they like and they trust rather than someone they don't, even if this likable person is offering a lower quality product and service at a higher price." So be likable and be authentic. Okay? We all have limiting beliefs, right? We're talking about conversion today, ways to increase your conversion. I was at this training in Miami. We did our designation training in Miami. And I had a gal come, we're doing Q&A, and I'm going to get her on our podcast. We've invited her. I hope she can join us. She's a young lady, stunning. She looks the part, luxury, probably got a $2,000 belt. And she said to me, she said to the whole class, she said, as an African-American young lady, she said, "I have to overcome more stigmas to attract high-end luxury clients. Help me out. What do you recommend?" And I had somebody on my panel. I had a guy named Amit Bhutta. He's been on my podcast before. He's a Compass agent out of Miami. His hashtag on Twitter is the Indian Realtor. Amit said, "I have to overcome those stigmas as well as being a minority." And so what we did on the spot, it was amazing. And she was so thankful. And I want to get her on. Teresa Bowe is her name, Bowe. Teresa, I want to get Teresa on our podcast so we can have some real talk, because as a Caucasian, I have some benefits over, right? I mean, there's a class we helped launch called CDS, Certified Diversity Specialist. So there's some unconscious bias. Males, right? We probably have some things easier in life than females. Okay. But you got to be aware of that. You got to be sensitive to that. And so we're going to get Teresa Bowe on our program to talk about that. But what I said to Teresa is I said, Use that as a positive. Mr. Seller, I've had to overcome things all my life, not only as a female, but as a minority. So I've had to work harder to get, those grades in school. I had to work harder to be accepted into that college. I had to work harder to get my business where I'm at. So if you want an agent that has had things handed to them, perhaps their parents were in the business, perhaps they grew up in a country club, and so it's real easy to know people because they've lived there their whole life, I'm not the right gal for you. But if you want somebody who's got a work ethic and will outwork anybody, who's going to treat you like the trophy client, you're looking at the right agent. So turn anything that could be perceived as a negative and tell your story and be proud of your story. Okay. And that goes for everybody in this room. You all have your story, whether you're a divorced mom, a single mom, whether you came from nothing, you're blue collar, you're white collar, you're Hispanic, you're white, black, you're a member of the LGBT community. We all have our story. Okay. You need to have a unique value proposition. Tell it. I got a 19 and an 18 on my ACT. I'm a former gym teacher. I ran 11 marathons, but I tell them I used to work out with the linebackers. I didn't get a scholarship at Northern Michigan because they recruited me. I sent in tapes to them. I followed up and a call after call. Sorry, thanks for the tape, but sorry. And Northern Michigan called, and I thought they were going to say sorry. They said, hey, we liked your tape. Come up for a visit. Okay, and that's the work ethic. I reverse prospected back then, and it's been great for real estate. Okay, any questions on that? Any other questions? All right, those of you that are watching at home, go to Luxury Designation if you're more interested on our event in Chicago. My name is Michael Lafito. The other thing is each Friday, tune in. You can go to luxuryfridays.com. Go to luxuryfridays.com for more information about our free content. My name is Michael Lafito. Happy Good Friday for my watchers at home that are Christians, that believe in Jesus. Have a great Easter, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take care, everybody.